Hi, this is Andrew Twidwell, owner of ABT Plumbing, Electric, Heat and Air. Once again with the show, You Got This. It's a show of DIY do's and don'ts. Sitting here in our Auburn office in our, I don't know, we call it the conference room, but it's more of an interrogation room. It's padded walls, you know. And I got Kevin sitting here. He's the head of our plumbing, HVAC, and electrical department, managing all three because he knows. He's forgotten more about the trades than I actually know, so I lean on this guy a lot. He knows a lot. And then we've got Rosalie and our producer in LA and making sure that we do this thing right. So yeah, I don't know. We're kind of talking off air about what we can talk about here. A lot's been going on. It's a new year. I know we've been dealing with a lot of people out recently because of the flu and COVID. I know I got COVID December 24th, Christmas Eve is when I was when I tested positive. So yeah, it kind of blew my holidays. No getting out and seeing family and friends. How was at your house?
Everything was fine at my house until my brother-in-law came over.
And then he got everybody sick?
With his dogs, and things happened with the dog.
Oh, right. You had dog issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
dogs and being dogs and not being nice to each
Yes.
other. And yeah. The pack rules.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. How was your holiday, Rosalie? We're gonna bring you in for a second. Are you on mute?
Okay. I unmuted. My holiday did not involve a pack of wild dogs. My holiday, let's see. I think I told you last week, I went to Cantor's Deli in Los Angeles, and we just wanted to get out of the house, do something different. And I'd already cooked for Thanksgiving. I cooked for Christmas Eve, and I cook twice a year. So I wasn't doing the third time. So it was, it was fine. There was a lot of people there, so we kind of stood out on the street. It was cold. It just, I think I mentioned last time, I felt like this Christmas season went by super quickly.
Super fast, weird.
Oh my gosh. Like it went from Thanksgiving to New Year's, so quickly. So I didn't have any big mishaps. So that was a good Christmas.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, ours was actually pretty good. We actually had 16 people there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
that's
we
fantastic.
had a full house. It was actually pretty good.
That's great. So, yeah. And everybody was healthy.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Cause that has not been the norm. Most people I've talked to, like, I know we were supposed to get together with some friends for Christmas Eve that we always get together. We missed last year or year before last, 2022, because of the flu, and this year because of COVID. And we weren't the only ones that were missing it because of COVID with that. Even that small group of friends, I think there was, like 5 families. We had another friend that was positive as well. So yeah, crazy time. Anyway, so a couple of things we've been doing here at ABT. We've been doing a lot of videos as of late and doing these reels because we're trying to get up on the socials, right? Trying to figure all this new kid stuff, the TikTok and the Facebook and the Instagram and all that stuff. And we've been doing some short videos on DIY things. And we did a video on how to test a toilet to determine whether it's leaking or not internally, the flapper. And that got, I don't know, quite a few views. I don't even remember how many views, like 300, 400 views or something. 3,000? 3,300? Holy moly. So yeah. All right. So 3,300. So yeah, that kind of, all right, blows my mind because we just videoed that last week. So yeah. So if you guys have seen that, if you haven't seen it, by all means, go take a look at it. I know we were just talking about things have been a little crazy this year. We've been making a lot of changes. So we haven't been on top of getting everything onto the socials other than Facebook and Instagram, but we'll be getting these videos onto our website and onto YouTube shortly. But if you go onto our Facebook or our Instagram page, you can find these videos on how to fix things. So, but in light of that, in light of the fact that we've had 3,300 people watch this little 30-second video of me in our company bathroom, women's bathroom, to figure out how to actually figure out a clog or how to figure out a toilet.
Yeah, but the audience doesn't know what happened after.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We can go into that. So that's a good banter. So yeah, so during this process, I flushed the toilet. I used the dye to test the toilet, and then I also used an auger, and I also used a plunger just kind of show people how to work on toilets. And I flushed a lot of water down during this time, and all of a sudden, one of the flushes, water came up in the area drain in the bathroom, and lo and behold, we had a mainline stoppage. So, and it was not just any mainline stoppage. It turned into this major job. Multi-day. Our guys were
cables.
Yeah, our guys got the pipe is, how old is this building? Probably from the 50s or 60s. And the sewer lines, whenever this building was installed, and I guess there's a break or something.
No, there wasn't nothing.
There was no break.
Nope. We must have cut all the roots out, and we can't see in there now.
Yeah, so there was a root blockage. We pulled back a bunch of roots, managed to get it open, but oh my gosh, that was a big deal. It was a good training moment for some of our guys. I know we had one of our plumbers on it that hasn't dealt a lot with sewers, so it was kind of a training moment for him, and he learned a lot. And then we had our drain cleaning guys come in and clean up the mess after our plumber kind of messed things up, because we've got guys that's all they do is drain cleaning, and they were actually able to get in there and get the cable out, get the system up and running, jet the line, do the whole bit. So yeah, it was quite the endeavor. But it's classic, right? It's, I'll do stuff like at my house, and I will go do a seemingly simple project that I've done hundreds of times in other people's houses. And for whatever reason, when I'm working in my own house or our own shop, it takes 2, 3, 10 times as long, because things just fall apart behind me, right? And I don't know if that's true in your house as well. It's so much easier to work on somebody else's house. I don't know why, but when you're working on your own house or your own buildings or something like that, things just are so much more difficult.
Or we get started and never finish.
But that's a whole other subject. My wife lived we had a double basin sink in one of our houses, and my wife lived for, I don't know, till we actually were ready to sell the house before I fixed it. Because we were only using one sink. Why do you need 2 sinks in your bathroom? So it took years for me to fix it, and I finally fixed it when we were putting the house on the market. But that's just the unfortunate thing of marrying a contractor. That's just normal. I know that's the way I grew up, and as you grew up, Rosalie, and your dad wasn't a contractor,
Nope.
but so things were pretty much fixed in your house most of the time, I imagine.
Yes, because he made us do it all.
Right. That's awesome. So we've got these toilet videos up there. So I thought I'd bring Kevin on board, and I'll let you describe how do you find let's back up. Let's back up to the symptom. So you're laying in bed and you hear your toilet running at night. That's genuinely how people hear it. Or you walk into the bathroom and you hear the toilet run, and then you go out, and then the next day you go in and you hear the toilet run, and you're like, oh, well, that maybe something's going on, right? I mean, that's typically how we find out whether the toilet's running. How do you then determine whether or not it is a fill valve, a flapper valve, or something else that's going on inside the toilet?
So first thing you want to do is make sure that you've got some Tide tablets in your bag of tricks.
Or food coloring, right?
Food coloring.
Right.
And if you don't, you can always, hey, Mr. Customer, you guys wouldn't happen to have a little food coloring.
Right. Well, we're not talking about us. We're talking about a homeowner.
Okay, a homeowner. So
this is a DIY
food
show.
Coloring. Use food coloring, put a couple drops in the tank. And
I would suggest not using yellow.
Yeah, don't use yellow.
Because that'll confuse you.
Yeah. Just put a couple drops in the tank and let it settle. And give 5 or 10 minutes, and then go back in and see if you got white, colored water in your bowl.
Yeah.
And if you do, now we know it is a flapper.
Right.
So change the flapper. And if that continues to make that sound, now we know only thing left is your fill valve.
Yeah.
And fill valves do go bad. They only got about a 10-year lifespan.
Right.
And go ahead. It's got one nut on the bottom, supply line, fairly simple to change.
Yeah. It is one of those things that is relatively simple to change. I would say that it's not like a beginner type of job, but you know, if you've got if you're handy around the house, it's typically a job that any handy type of person can take care
Yes.
of fill valve. And I want to go back to the flapper because I know you and I have been doing this for a long time. Is it safe to say, and I've said this, like, toilets are my nemesis. They're the one fixture that I had more callbacks on than any other fixture in the house, right?
So one other thing you want to check, let's say you put a new flapper on and you still have the leaking. So lift the flapper up and run your finger around the top of the pipe there. And if you feel
valve, or not fill valve, flush valve. Yeah.
Flush valve it's called. And if it feels smooth, you should be good. If it's kind of pitted or jagged, that's where your leaking's coming from. You got to replace that flush valve.
Yeah. And also I found that, especially today when we've got 3-inch flappers, 2-inch flappers, dual flappers, flappers with floats, flappers without floats, flappers with special chains. There are all these different things so that when you do go to replace the flapper, it's a good idea to, once you pull the lid off the toilet, look inside the tank. There's going to be
there's some numbers and letters on the back side of the tank.
And it'll tell you where the date stamp, and then there's usually printed on the toilet, it's going to be the manufacturer. So take that information down. And I would also say turn the water off.
Yes.
Take that flapper to the hardware store and get the exact same one that you're replacing. Because I can't tell you how many times those corky flappers fail. And even 30 years ago, they would fail on some toilets, right? And now it's gotten way more complicated because of all the engineering that's happened with toilets, because of the fact that we're flushing with 1.5 to 1.2 gallons
instead of 5
per flush instead of 5, right? So they've had to do a lot of engineering to make these things work better. So take that flapper to the store, and it may be $5, $10, $20 more than the generic one, but it's going to be worth it spending that money, because it's going to cost you more than that to get us out, to get a plumber out to take care of it. Even to hire a handyman is going to cost you more to come out and do it. So make sure you get the OEM, and that's typically where we see the problem is a non-OEM flapper.
Yes.
Right.
And plus, if you don't take care of it right away, you're going to be wasting a lot of water.
Yeah, a lot of water. That is ironic. Well, it's not irony, but that is by far the biggest culprit of a high water bill. More than a leak, more than a pipe leak.
A leaky toilet will probably do about 400 to 500 gallons a day.
Yeah, and that's conservative.
Yes,
that's conservative. So so you're talking about tens of thousands of gallons. Well, am I right? 500 gallons a day times 30 is I mean, you're up there. So, my math's not so great right now. That's a lot of water. So 50,000 gallons, right? 50,000 gallons. So 15,000 gallons, right? So you're using a lot. You could be using a lot of water with that fill valve or that flapper leaking. So use a coloring dye, food dye. You can buy tablets at the store.
Yeah.
The tablets are just concentrated dye.
Yes.
So. And actually, even the tablets, I always found the tablets to be too big. I didn't even need to use a full tablet. I could cut those in half. But if you just go get, some food dyes at your grocery store, use a blue. Blue is going to be your better one, because then you don't have to worry about flushing it out completely out of the tank if you got a little blue water in there. But yeah, it takes, and I would say it could take a little bit longer than 5 or 10 minutes. I would probably give
Sometimes
it
does.
Yeah, I mean, because it could be a really slow leak, but you got to think about what that fill valve does is it maintains a water level in there. All that fill valve does is got a little float on it. And as the water level lowers, that fill valve starts to sink in the water column. And then all of a sudden it opens the valve and fills up again, starts to sink. And that could take, I've seen it take a lot longer than 15 minutes, right? It could take half an hour to a couple hours. So give it a little bit of time. Don't just, so if you are doing this, make sure that bathroom is a bathroom that you're not going to be using. If you got a second or third bathroom, don't use that bathroom for a little while. Give it a couple hours, but check on it, see if you've got a leak. And then when you were saying it could be the fill valve, there is a rubber washer in there, and all fill valves have a rubber seal in there with the same kind of thing. It's similar to a flapper. It's just a rubber washer that sits on a plastic seat that stops the water from flowing. If you live in NID, if you have pipe treated water, you've got chlorine and chloramines. that will dissolve
Plastic
and rubber parts. So it's automatically going to be dissolving over the course of its life. So they typically last 10, 15 years. But another thing that you could have a problem with if you are on pipe treated water is we've seen a lot of times where that fill valve is leaking, and it's because of high water pressure.
Yes.
And inside of a toilet, you have a overflow tube. So if the water level was to reach a certain point, the water just starts to overflow and gets dumped into the drain, right? So it's another way for water to get into the drain. That could be because of high water pressure. It could be because of the fill valve is not working properly, not shutting off when it should. But typically it's a high water pressure, and you can buy a pressure gauge at any hardware store. And we always suggest getting one. They've got one with an orange needle on it, a lazy needle is what we call them. And they're probably $25.
About that. Yeah.
25, $30. They're relatively inexpensive. And what you want to do is just go and put that onto a hose bib on the outside of your house, and then turn the hose bib on. And with that lazy needle on there, leave it on for 24 hours, because what happens is as we use water, there's a potential for in the evening, we're bringing all this cold water into the house. So we go and take a bath or we take a shower, and it's replenished with cold water, and it heats the water up. And that water can expand to such a great extent that your water pressure could be at 60 psi until the evening, when it peaks out at 120 psi. And going back on that, so what am I looking for? I'm looking for a pressure range. Everything's designed to work within the pressure range of 40 to 80 psi. 80 being the farthest max, right? So anything beyond 80 psi is kind of like driving your car at red line. So it'll work. Everything's functioning
eventually,
but you could have catastrophic failure of systems because of that. You could blow your engine up if you run at red line.
Valves, fill valves.
Yeah. So those are some critical things you want to look at toilets, and changing and when we say changing a flush valve, we say that kind of lightly. Yeah. Like if I've got a customer that's got a fill valve that's going, I'm probably at this point that toilet is probably 15 to 30 years old. I mean, coming from San Francisco, I was working at toilets that were the turn of the century, right? And had brass fillers and fill valves that were installed that were 80 years ago.
Water closet.
An actual water closet, wall-hung water closet. I would just recommend putting a toilet in. I mean, the new toilets, this is the other thing too, like, when the low-flow toilets came out in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of flack about them, right? I mean, those things are junk. They don't flush for anything. You got to flush twice, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it was true. But, if you bought a quality one, like we were only selling Elger and I think LK at the time, and some of the Japanese ones, some Totos and things like that, because those were the only ones that were really working. There was a lot of really bad product out on the market. There still is a lot of really bad product out on the market. And there's a lot of engineering going into a toilet that works on 1.2 to 1.5 gallons per flush. But if I've got a toilet that's 10 or 15 years old, I'm probably just going to it's probably a low flow, probably just going to recommend putting a new one in. And if you do put a new one in, that's sometimes even easier than replacing a fill valve, a flapper and a fill valve and flush valve. It takes less time to replace the toilet to just put a new one in. Now all of a sudden I got a new one and it's got a warranty on it, and it's better engineered. So when you are looking at these new toilets, would you say what are some manufacturers that you would recommend? Because I don't get the cheap one, because you're gonna spend more on that cheap one in the long run than you will spending an extra $100 on a quality one.
Yes, Kohler, American Standard, Elger.
And what are toilets? What's a quality toilet going for these days in terms of if you go to a supply house?
Oh, they're probably, you spend anywhere from $200 to $400.
Yeah. And I would say closer to the $300 range these days with inflation that we've been seeing. Like, I know I was shocked the other day going to Costco and finding things that I bought for $7 2 years ago. Now they're $15. Like, holy moly. And the same thing's happening in our industry. Things are just going up. And I just got another notice that our HVAC, some of our HVAC stuff's going up another 7%. And we're getting those, I'm getting those like quarterly now.
Those are like 3-4 times a year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, you may, we quote some of these prices, but it may be more than what you actually think it is. And it may be a little bit more than what we're saying, because sometimes we're saying numbers that used to be, and things are changing so fast out there. So get a good quality toilet. And the other thing that can happen too, like, let's talk a little bit more, like, I know, I wasn't sure how to ask this. I'm just going to say it. If you've got hard water, we've seen toilets build up calcium, magnesium inside the jets. Inside
the tubes that basically push the water through the trap in there.
Right. So there's a little jet at the bottom. Sometimes you'll see like a jet at the very base of the bowl that shoots water to help force that water up and over the hump of the P-trap. And they'll get clogged, right?
Get clogged up. Yep. That'll slow it down. People complain about, my toilet won't flush. Well,
poor flushing.
Doesn't have enough water flow. So
yeah, and
it's time to replace it.
It's time to replace it. And that's one of those situations where it's like, that's not repairable. No. I mean, if we could pull the toilet and immerse it in a vat of vinegar and water, we could fix it, right? Just like your coffee maker or your shower head. But the toilet's so big, that's just not, it's
not feasible.
It's not feasible. Just put a new toilet in. It costs more money for us to do that than it would just to replace it. So we just replace it. So if you have a toilet that's not functioning well and it's older and you're on a well, there's a good chance that toilet is just, it's done. It's calcified. And we see that a lot up here in Nevada County. And it's one of those things that I did not see at all in the Bay Area, or I'm sure you never saw that in LA you'd see it.
Yeah, in LA, yeah.
And definitely in Bullhead City. Holy moly, yep. That water's hard.
Yeah, 135 grains.
Jeez, yeah.
That's a parts per million.
Yeah, and we're working with like, I don't know, hard water 8. For us. Yeah, it's 8. Typical is about 3 to 5. Yep. So they do wear out, so you do need to replace them. So I got a couple things. So I hope this is helpful. Take a look at our videos on the socials. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, blah, 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 blah. A couple other things. We want to make sure you've got time, still have time to vote for us, and the best of, please vote for us. The voting ends January 20th, and this is the union's best of for Nevada County. You can go, we've got a link on our website. You can also go to the union for that website. So you've got till January 2nd to vote for us, and please vote for us for all 3 categories: plumbing, electrical, heating, and air. We still have these great deals going on, these $49 specials. It includes a water heater flush, a AC furnace tune-up, and electrical inspection. If your house is over 20 years old, you really want to get that electrical inspection. And we have a $79 drain cleaning special. If we can't clear it, it's free. Any residential, any residents with an accessible clean out, $79. We're also going to be at the Cal Expo Home Show this February 2nd through 4th. So please stop by there. We've got some great specials and things along with that show that you can take advantage of. And on that, I'm just going to end it. So thanks for listening, and we will catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.